President of the American Enterprise Institute. Thank you so much for welcoming us to your building here today. It's absolutely stunning.
I'm glad you like it. It was a long time in the works. It took us 78 years to get the project started and 4 years to get in here, but it was worth the wait.
Wow. And so many of our viewers love hearing about your career and love hearing about the career of people who've been successful in the consulting movement. So, just to humor us, what's the typical workday look like for you?
There is no typical workday. It's the most interesting job I could possibly imagine because no 2 days are alike. There are a lot of things that I do. I raise money, I give a lot of talks. I do about 175 speeches a year. I'm on the road about 100 times a year, so I'm out about half of the time. I have to raise with my colleagues around $50 million a year. So you could say that my job is kind of like running for the Senate all the time and never getting elected.
Yes, sure.
I'm meeting with all different kinds of people, going to interesting places, and the truth is I love it. I mean, yesterday I was in Chicago, the day before that I was in Boston. Next week I'll be in New York, and after that I'll be going to Dharamsala in the Himalayan foothills to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it's really extremely varied. The only complaint, if I have any, is a lot of jet lag.
Yes, and you meet so many interesting people. Has the novelty worn off yet, or are you still just overwhelmed by the people you get to meet and the experiences you get to have in this role?
It never wears off. It's super exciting, I have to say. And part of the reason for that is that I have the right personality for this job. My colleague Charles Murray, who's everybody watching this video is going to know, the great Charles Murray, one of the greatest social scientists of the past 100 years. And he was looking at there's a famous personality test that looks at your personality across several dimensions, 5 dimensions, very common in social psychology. And the way you take the test is you answer 300 questions that seem kind of unrelated, and there's an internal factor analysis, statistical analysis across the answers, and it tells you where you rank on these personality dimensions. One of them is extraversion, and I was at the 99th percentile for extraversion. And so I took it. Charles Murray asked me to take it, so I sent it back to him, and he said, "You know, it's actually kind of disturbing." So the bottom line is, I really love people. I love getting to know people, and so if I have 1,000 people at an event in Tulsa tonight, I'm whistling on the way to Washington Dulles Airport. I can't wait to get there, and so this is a pretty ideal job for me.
That's amazing. And so, for those of us interested in time management, no one could be a better person to talk to than you, because not only do you manage AEI and its day-to-day operations, but you also travel so much and contribute to so many different publications and to public policy research. How do you fit it all in?
It's a question of having a really good team, people that are helping on various activities and are specializing in different parts of my calendar. And then a lot of self-discipline. I was a classical musician for a long time. I did my living in classical music for 12 years before. And one of the things that you learn in classical music is that personal organization really matters a lot, such that you can get your practicing done. You also have to have repetitions to get very good at things and slow things down. There are a lot of principles of classical music that you use, not just time management, but self-management. So the key skill is not managing your time, it's being a leader to yourself. And so the same way that you would manage somebody else, you manage yourself. The key thing to ask and answer for all the people who are watching us and that are building their careers is to say, okay, if I were the chief of staff to a CEO, how would I structure his or her day? Then do it. You are your CEO. You've just structured your day. Now follow that. Follow that slavishly. Don't get thrown off that. So, for example, I write a column about once a month in the New York Times. I publish a book every couple of years. That takes a lot of planning to be able to do that. We just finished a documentary film. It took a whole lot of work. There's writing time. And so my assistant puts in 90 to 120 minutes a day of actual thinking and writing time for me. And we stick to it. She doesn't let anybody in my office. I mean, there's an emergency, obviously. It's like one of my kids is sick or something. Then that will throw me off that schedule. But we're pretty serious about making sure that the things I need to get done, I get done. The second thing to keep in mind for self-management is you always have a list. Everybody who's organized is a list maker. I bet you do it. You list the top 20 things you need to do. Now, here's the key. Here's the secret to being an effective list maker so you can be really productive and really engaged. Take the top 20 things on your list, now order them in terms of importance of what you most want to do. What you most want to do if you're engaged in your job is actually the most important stuff. Now, here's the third part. Here's the real secret. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Cross the bottom 10 things off the list and forget them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Don't do them. Just don't do them. Have somebody else do it or neglect it and don't worry about it. And if it turns out that you're getting yourself fired and becoming unsuccessful, it means you don't want to do what you need to do to become successful and you're in the wrong job.
Yeah.
And you'll know that by about the third day.
And no doubt, a lot of it is depending on just great people in your team, as you said, your private office and your vice presidents to do the management and to implement policies in the way you want them done.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surrounded by fantastic people. And you get the right people in the right positions who are really passionate about what they do too, and it's great. Yeah, I mean, the truth is there's also, it's not any secret that you got to work a lot of hours. You know, when I talk to people in the nonprofit sector, one of the things that I notice about people who are a lot younger than I am, people in their 20s, is it's a very strange thing. They think a lot about work-life balance, and that's crazy. What is that? I don't understand. I mean, it's like if you don't love your job, if your work isn't a vocation that's serving others, and it's what you want to do in your spare time and what you want to do in your work time, you got the wrong job, man. I mean, and we're talking to people who are going into the conservative movement. It's super fun to be in this movement because it's intellectual and there's all kinds of good stuff to do, and you're helping people. You're helping people to live better lives and earn their success and have lives of dignity. So what's this work-life balance? I don't get it. And you know, it's one of the things I notice about millennials is that they've been taught to think about work-life balance and have hobbies all the time. And for me, that's complete nonsense. That just means, and look, I get it, not everybody can have these super fun jobs they like, but everybody watching us is trying to do something that they really love. So,
Yes.
so you know, you can work really, really long hours because you're blending your work and your hobbies all together in one big mass of goodness and service, and then you have enough time to actually get a lot done.
And as you said, many of the people watching this are thinking about what they want to do for a living. Many of them are probably thinking, wow, I'd love to intern for AEI.
Yeah.
Or I'd love to work in public policy. What's your advice for them?
The most important thing that we look for, because we cycle tons of people through AEI, we have almost 300 full-time employees at AEI, so it's a big shop. And our intern program is arguably the most competitive thing that we have. So we have about 5,000 applications for 200 spots. So you can see it's considerably more competitive to get an internship at AEI than it is to get into Princeton or Harvard. Our research assistant spots are really competitive too. About 300 people apply for each job that we've got in these pools. So you can see that a lot of people actually want these things. What are we looking for? Number one, it's good training so that people can actually do the work that we're asking them to do. But that's the minimum basic standard. What I really want is I want to find warriors. And I don't want to find warriors for ideology. I hire a lot of kids who are politically progressive. I don't care. I want people who are warriors for human dignity. I want people who believe in unlimited human potential. I want people who are going to just serve and serve with love. And I can tell when I meet them. I can tell who the warriors are and who the ones who really kind of aren't. And they're like, yeah, I wanted to intern at some really good prestigious place as the American Enterprise Institute or maybe it's National Geographic. I don't know. I can tell. I can tell in 2 seconds. If I've got a warrior on my hands for human welfare, that's the kind of person I really want to hire.
Amazing. And you know, in your TED talk, just as you were just talking about, you've mentioned about how the alleviation of poverty and the increase in human dignity has been your passion in life. As you move on from AEI, how do you want to continue supporting that mission?
It's a good question. I'm asking myself that a lot. I've been the president of AEI for 10 years, so it's been a long time since I've done something else. It's going to be weird to do something else. I generally speaking change careers every decade. So I didn't go to college traditionally. I dropped out after a year and then was a professional musician for 12. Then I went to college and went to graduate school after that, and then started a 10-year career as an academic, most of that time at Syracuse University. And then I spent 10 years as president of AEI, and now I'm on to the sort of version 4. And we'll see. I mean, I'm going to teach at Harvard and also do a lot of new media projects. We're talking about producing a new television show on the search for happiness. We've got big podcast products and new books in the works. I'm going to, as I mentioned a minute ago, I'm going to India to see the Dalai Lama. We're talking about potentially a book project together. So there's a lot of interesting things like that. It's going to be a more creative life with a lot less management, for sure. And let's just see whether or not I get the shakes. You know, if I'm not asking people for millions of dollars every day, maybe I'll just lose it. And I, maybe I just won't be able to handle it anymore. I don't know. I'm nervous because, I'm 54 years old and I'm reinventing myself. There's a funny thing, it sounds really super entrepreneurial, but it's not a normal thing to do. I mean, a lot of people are watching us. I'm the age of your parents. A lot of your parents are in the mid-50s, and they're not quitting their jobs and doing something new. That's just not typically. And I was talking to a guy about this idea of a show for the pursuit of happiness. And he's a producer. He's a hotshot producer, and he's in his late 20s. He's actually an artist agent, and guy's great. We're talking in his office, and he says, "It must be so cool to be writing books and talking about happiness. You know a lot about happiness. You must be super happy and satisfied with your life." I said, "Well, let's think about it this way. I run a very successful institution. Things have gone great. I got no reason to screw up my life. I'm quitting my job, and I'm a 54-year-old man sitting in the office of a 29-year-old talent agent in Los Angeles, pitching him on the idea of a TV show. Does that sound like happiness to you?" So the truth is, there's a lot of stuff up in the air. There are a lot of variables. What I'm committed to doing is continuing to work to lift people up and bring them together. I've committed my life to service to other people, particularly people who have less power than I have. That's what I believe can be the best that should be thought and said in the conservative movement. That's all we should be working on. The conservative movement is fighting for other people. And whether I'm running an institution or doing a TV show or teaching my graduate students at Harvard, or no matter what I do for the rest of my life, that's what I'm going to be doing.
What do you find yourself wanting to do if you ever get a free weekend?
It's funny. I always think I'm going to have more time than I have to do something fun. But it turns out that all of my time is vacuumed up by the same basic set of activities. So most of my time is spent working. I work, 70 hours a week probably. It's not crazy. I'm not a lawyer or anything. The rest of the time is spent with my family or in the gym or practicing my faith. And there's really not that much time left over. And so when I think about what a free weekend would look like, my thoughts gravitate to one of those basic 4 activities. And if something else, I always think, it'd be great to read a book that I don't need to read.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great to read something that is not nutritious? Maybe a little junk food. And then it's funny, I open a book that, a novel or something, and I'm like, ugh. And I put it down and I pick up, a new article from the Journal of Social Psychology or something like that, and I wind up reading something for work. So the truth is, I'm very, very bad at anything that is not pushing me toward the goal. And that's not necessarily something I recommend. I would actually recommend that when people do have some time off, that they do something where they can truly get away from their primary activity. But I haven't achieved that yet.
You dropped out of college to play the French horn professionally. What advice do you have to many young professionals right now who are on one path in their career, or they're in college right now, and they're getting a sense that that's not exactly what it is they want to do? What advice would you give them?
Don't worry too much. The stakes are not that high. In the modern economy today, the most fungible skill that you have is hard work and integrity, personality, and being interested in what you do. Once you get skills in one particular line of work, you'll be able to port them over to another. The ultimate change, for me, was to be a French horn player for a long time and then stop, go get my bachelor's degree and my master's and doctorate, and then try to become a college professor. That was obviously a pretty radical shift, and that's going to be a shift that is going to be more extreme than most people who are watching us are going to undertake. But you can do that in America. It's incredible. If you work in the post office in France, you better consider yourself a post office worker for the rest of your career, because if you stop, you'll probably be unemployed for years. But we have this flexibility in America. It's fantastic. So get skills, serve others, try things, have fun, and don't stress out.
Dr. Brooks, thank you so much for having us here today.
It's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.